I think every single one of us is grieving. We are grieving for our life before COVID. We are grieving for the changes that are happening multi times a day that are affecting us. We think it's overload. We think it's stress, but honestly, we are grieving. Start with those self-limiting beliefs. Get a red flag when you hear yourself say, I should, I ought to, I need to. That's the beginning of peeling back the layers of stuff that you've taken on that's really not yours. You don't have to carry that.
Yeah. I'm Lee Jones, a U.S. Army combat veteran, author, and the host of this show. This is where honest conversations, veteran perspectives, and real life lessons come together to help us all navigate transition, growth, purpose, and the moments that shape who we become. Welcome to Hindsight, the podcast.
When you look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it.
Hey, welcome back to Hindsight, the podcast. I'm Lee Jones, your host. And what do you do when loss doesn't just break your heart, but quietly reshapes your identity, your routines, and even parts of your life nobody warns you you'll miss? Today's guest is Lynn Banis. Banis or Banis?
Banis.
I did it every time. I like to have fun with people's names. But today I have with me Lynn Banis. She's a psychologist and a coach who turned devastating personal loss into a purpose-driven mission to help widows, women, and overall people rebuild their lives filled with joy, fulfillment, and meaning. Hello, Lynn. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Lee. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much. And first off, I want to thank you so much for being a special guest on the show today.
Well, I'm delighted. I appreciate being here.
So I like to jump right in it. So I hope that doesn't bother you. And please don't take this the wrong way, but I've always had a passion or a curiosity to learn what I can from people's experiences. That's probably why I'm hosting this show. But you've lived through the loss of your mother, your brother, and your husband in a short span of time. These obviously aren't the experiences you hope to build a conversation from, but I would like to know, what did that season in your life teach you about grief that no professional training could ever could?
Well, I don't think anybody can understand that kind of devastating grief unless they go through it. There just aren't words for it. But what I learned was that this is not a quick process, that you can just be devastated, crying, having no motivation, not caring, for months. And that is typical. It's okay as long as you sit with the pain and you don't try to stifle it. I mean, the idea in my mind is you're here. There's nothing you can do about the past. So let's see what we can do to help you move forward, not move on, because I don't want you to forget all the good things that happened in your life. This is part of your life. And if you start thinking about it, you can learn how to really turn it into kind of a memorial in a way for the person that's not here anymore. So getting to that point where you can think, brain fog really is a real thing. And your brain does all sorts of things when something significant happens, and it's trying to protect you, and it's trying to figure out what in the world is the map now. So I work, mostly in the area of building and claiming a new life based on who the person is now, because they're significantly different than they were the day before the tragedy happened.
After losing so much in such a short span for you specifically, like, what became more important to you than it had ever been before?
Well, I've always been really close to my family, but that, just took a significant leap. And my dogs. It would be hard to even think about getting up if it hadn't been for the dogs.
I tell you what, you know, you speak of dogs. I'll preface this because I'm thinking about a dog. I had a Shih Tzu before named Sasha. This has nothing to do with people, right? It's just a small fraction of a measure of some of that loss you feel, and then what it carried on after the fact for me. So I had Sasha, and when we had to put Sasha down, it was kind of emotional. Like I didn't think I would feel that way. So,
Yeah.
but for Sasha specifically, this is where something clicked in me. So we put Sasha down, and I felt like I didn't spend as much time as I could have with her. I know it's a dog, but I felt like I could have done more. So now we have Jasper, and I like maybe overcompensate, you know, because he's with me all the time. I make sure I'm in tune and paying attention. So from how do I say this? From your perspective, what are the kinds of regrets grief tends to surface that people don't normally talk about enough?
Okay. First of all, I am totally with you on the pets thing because we can get so close to our pets that
Yeah,
it's devastating. I mean, I have friends who have
yeah,
cried and cried for months because that's part of them. That's part of their identity, who they are. You know, when you open that door and nobody comes to greet you, that has 4 legs,
I
you
know.
know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
tough. So, yeah, I really think there are so many things that cause us to grieve, and I'm gonna go on a tangent, real quick one. I think every single
Mhm,
one of us right this minute is grieving. We are grieving for our life before COVID. We are grieving for the changes that are happening multi times a day that are affecting us.
mhm.
And you know, we think it's overload, we think it's stress, but honestly, we are grieving as a
Yeah,
society and as individuals. So this is a
yeah,
very, very important topic because if you don't deal with it, we know that it causes not only emotional issues, but physical issues. So off the tangent. I forgot the question.
Well, the question was, from your perspective, what are the kinds of
Oh yeah. Yeah.
regrets that grief tends to surface that people don't talk enough
Well,
about?
I think that it's the same. You know, I wish I spent more time. I wish I would have said this. It's very much like when someone passes, and you know, nurses will tell you these are the things that people say before they pass, and it's never. I wish I worked more. Um, you know, it's.
Yeah.
I wish we would have gone. You know, on that trip, or I wish we had a family reunion, or a lot of it is things from the past that I knew I should have done and I didn't do because of life, and then
Mhm.
the loss of what might be in the future, you know? I
Yeah.
I had to sell my house because it was just too big, and I have grieved for the loss of the weekends when the kids would all come over with their children and we'd do barbecues and, you know, I won't have that again. This house is too small. So,
Yeah.
we have to deal with the past. We have to deal with the horrible present that we're in while we're grieving. And we have to deal with the future. That's an awful lot of stuff for a human being to go through, and we shouldn't have to do it alone. Our society should
Yeah.
be more educated, and there should be more help for people who are trying to, you know, battle their way through it. It really that's about what it is.
Yeah. You just talk about the past, grieving the past, and maybe kind of unknowing the future and being in this moment right now with grief. What do you think about when they talk about being in the moment?
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that we have to experience the sadness, the pain. I mean, it's like the little kid's, song, "You can't go over it, you can't go under it, you've gotta go through it." You really
Mhm.
do, otherwise you're shoving it off, pushing it down inside of you, and it will cause problems. So, I think the thing we have to learn is to just sit with it. Let it
Mhm.
do its thing. If it's tearing your heart out, it's tearing your heart out. That's what happens, that's part of the process. And, um, and I think that as we move, we learn these things and, we can eventually get to the place where we're saying, you know, I hate where I am. There's got to be something
Mhm.
more than this.
I was just reading this book called 101 Essays That'll Change the Way You Think. And they talk about how we say we're seeking out happiness, but we're actually seeking out comfort,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yes.
And you stay stagnant because you're craving comfort. And growing is uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes.
Facing things is uncomfortable. So we retreat to things that we feel comfortable with.
Mhm.
The only time that that changes is when it becomes more uncomfortable to be in that space that you once defined as comfortable,
Yeah,
right?
it hurts
And then
more
that's when
than
change
the
starts to happen.
unknown future. You're willing to step out.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's important to understand, especially people who are listening right now. You're not looking for happiness. A lot of times you have to make a choice on certain things. Yeah, it's something simple. You break up with someone, with a partner, and then you start to think about the old partner because the old partner is comfortable. It's something you're familiar with.
Yeah,
You weren't happy with them at the time, right? That's why you're not partners anymore. But you start to seek out that
you
comfort
do.
just to
You
get
do.
through. When you say sit with it, I just want to make sure that we emphasize the point. Like, be uncomfortable. Allow yourself to be uncomfortable
Exactly.
in those moments and see how you can grow from it, see what you can learn from it, see how you can walk through it because you can't go over it, can't go under it. You got to go through it. You just
Exactly.
mentioned that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found, I've worked for years helping people be the best they could be. And, it's just so clear to me that we are driven by the stories we tell ourselves. And those
Mm,
stories come from our childhood usually. And, you know, eh, you get such an aha when you realize, uh, one of my clients had some money problems, couldn't get the business to work. And we talked about it and went back to when this person was a little girl. She felt like she was a burden on her parents. And they'd
mm,
go out to dinner and she'd order the cheapest thing. And it's like, I'm not good enough. And that story gets in that little mind and it rules. It rules your life. And so if we can get to those stories and help people understand, when you look at it from an adult perspective, it's, well, of course that's not true. Uh, you know,
mhm,
and here's
mhm.
the data. And that's what I think is really important is that we pull out the data that says, here's it. This is proof that that wasn't true. So you can let that one go and let's talk about a story that's going to work for you. Like, I am
Yeah.
becoming, I am learning, I am, you know, those things are really,
Yeah.
really important.
I love talking about that. Conquering your mind. I call it the narrator, right? Because you write the story. And most people don't understand that. We're pre-programmed from
We
childhood
are,
on certain
we
things.
are.
And we don't even recognize that we're operating off of that old operating
Mhm,
system, like if we wanna use computer terms,
mhm.
and we don't upgrade.
We
We
don't.
just keep using that same process because 1, it's comfortable, 2, it's familiar, 3, it's just how we are.
Yeah.
And that's what we say, that's just who I am. Doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't, and, we are addicted to those stories. So,
Yeah.
I have a friend, who said he always got, singled out by the police. And he'd
Mhm.
go on trips, and he'd always get singled out by the police, um, and he just said, I don't know what's going on. Do they always pick on black people?" And,
Mhm.
eventually one of his mentors said, "Hey, you really need to step out of that story that you're always going to be the person that's picked out by the police." And he went, "Oh
Mhm.
my gosh." Because he comes back and he tells everybody about it, and that gets the adrenaline going and gives him a high. I feel good that they feel sorry for me. That's the kind of thing that
Mm.
happens to us, and, it's not right or wrong, you can easily condemn yourself for that, and I don't want you to do that because it just is. It's a story, and
Yeah.
stepping away from that story and understanding that it's got a grip on us. And,
Yeah.
and ever since then,
Yeah.
he's never had that same situation ever.
I definitely agree with that. Great example. I won't expound on it, but the things, if you think it's going to happen, you're looking for it to happen.
You are.
A lot of times you tend to make things happen, right? Sometimes it is absolutely true once in a while, but you're not the target all the time. So,
Yeah.
um, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I hate to say widowhood, maybe it's grief, but has widowhood changed the way you think about being present with the people you still have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those times when we can get together are really precious. They always have been, but
Mm,
I sit afterwards and I think about how wonderful that was, how much I just love my family. They're great, that kind of thing. And so while I can't see them as often as I used to, the times I do see them are just really special. And I
yeah,
try to be there instead of letting, life, business, all those things, um, intersect because, kids grow so fast. All of a sudden your grandkids are off to college. And then
yeah.
things really change because they get their own families and they go do their own thing. And, as you said, life isn't static. We have to we have to accept the fact that everything moves. And just because something's happened, it doesn't mean life is gonna stop because it's not.
Isn't that the truth? I tell you what, as far as being in the moment with people, how you always you hear it a lot. Now, it may not be always. I got to stop saying always, but a lot of times you hear about a person in your family passes away, and then there's a funeral, and all these people in your family you haven't seen in years, are there, and it feels so good,
Mhm.
right? And you hate to feel so good because it's at a funeral, but you rekindle these relationships that you hadn't spoken to them in years,
Mhm.
like I said, and then it kind of goes away a little bit, and I just want, and that was me specifically. That's me, my
Mhm.
perspective. I know my grandmother passed away, and like all my siblings were there. And, we took these pictures, had a great time, and then we went our separate ways. And to your point, we have our own lives, we have our own jobs, we have our own things that we are not necessarily responsible for, but things that we do and
Mhm.
deal with every day. And I just hate the fact that for me specifically, personally, that I let a lot of those things get in the way of continuing to build on that
Mhm.
relationship momentum that started
Yep.
again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to focus on, from your perspective, like just being in the moment. And I know you just answered the question, but being in the moment with the people who you are with now, doesn't have to be family, it could be just any kind of relationship. How important do you believe that is, honestly, from your perspective?
Well, I'll tell you, I believe we do not heal alone. We don't heal well alone.
Mm,
And so having the support of knowing somebody cares, somebody is willing to take a few minutes to talk to you on the phone or, send you a text or an email or something like that. It's huge, and we have forgotten how to do that because 1, we're so busy, 2, we have all this technology, and it's not the
mm,
same as picking up the
yeah,
phone and talking to someone. And most
right.
of us don't think about sending off a text, "Hey, I'm thinking of you. Hope you're having a good day." We just don't think about it. And,
Yeah.
the fact is that we do have to acknowledge it and we have to work at it. It's something we have lost that we need to bring back into our lives.
I think you go back a little further. You said it's not the same as picking up the phone, and then you go a little further back. It's not like writing a letter telling exactly how you feel, and then also obviously it's not as the same as going out and seeing somebody.
Yeah. I mean,
Um, we have all this technology and stuff, and people are all spread out, so it's not always easy
right.
to do it. But I do love some of the technological advances that we have today, like video
Oh, yeah,
calls, that kinda helps out with you're not there, but you can still see the person.
and you can keep that.
Um
You can keep that recording. When my mom was, I don't know, she was about 102 maybe. She was in
Oh, wow.
well, she made it to 106, believe it or not. She was
Oh,
amazing.
wow.
Um,
Yeah.
but, she was, in, assisted living in COVID, and so we couldn't do anything for her birthday, but I said, "Let's all get together on Zoom," and so she got to see cousins and things people she hadn't seen for years, and she just giggled the whole way through, and we kept that for her,
Yeah,
and would play it for her every once in a while. I think it's really
yeah,
important for us to make the effort. I mean, that wasn't a
yeah.
huge effort, but everybody thought, "Oh, this is a great idea." Yeah.
That's an amazing idea. In that aspect, and I worded this question a little differently, but still it relates to what you just said because it didn't have loss at that moment. But what do you think loss teaches us or life teaches us or obstacles teach us about the small moments that we usually just rush past
Mhm.
when life feels normal?
I call, grief and loss the wrecking ball of life because
Mm,
one minute everything's copacetic and you're moving along, and the next minute it's all gone. And I think that what it teaches us is that we need to appreciate the things in life. We need to tell people we love them. We need to do all of those things because they might not be here tomorrow. And we need to appreciate what we have the moment we have it, and then take that appreciation with us into the future by doing little things. I'll tell you one more little thing that my family we did after my husband died. And unfortunately, my son-in-law's dad died a month to the day before my husband died, and we were all together because it was Christmas Eve. And
wow.
so I knew I couldn't do Christmas the same way. I just couldn't have a big family turkey dinner and everything and sit and look
Mhm,
at that empty chair, and I said, "Kids, we gotta do something different." So we came up with a whole different way to, you know, come and potluck and all that kind of stuff, something different than we'd ever done, and I gave them all a little mason jar, the kind jelly comes in,
mhm.
at
Yeah,
Thanksgiving, and I said, "Listen, we've got these 2 men that we love dearly and that aren't here, so I want you to write on a little slip of paper every time you think of them and you think of something that you loved that they did or something funny or silly or whatever, stick it in the
yeah,
jar." And so Christmas afternoon, we sat around and pulled those and we were just in hysterics because, it was
yeah,
yeah, we got to take that with us. So you
yeah.
don't let it disappear.
That's pretty amazing. I when you said that, I can imagine that time for you all in putting those notes in the jar. Reason why, because a lot of times you're gonna be like, "Oh, I never knew that
Oh,
about
yeah.
them," but most of the time it's like, "Oh, absolutely." Like, that was them,
Yeah. You
right?
remember the time when
So
this
I
happened?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
So looking back, were there things that you once gave your energy to that no longer felt worthy of your time after your loss?
Well, they're different things. I don't have as much patience with foolishness as I once did,
Mhm. Yeah.
and part of that's getting older too, I think. But, like some of the, social media stuff, I just don't have, no, I don't wanna read about that stuff. That's just, no.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
but I'm more particular about what I choose, and I have learned that this will sound backwards to some people, but you never have the opportunity to create your own life until something major changes it and changes who you are in the process, your
Mm,
identity. And it's an incredible opportunity.
yeah.
So part of
Yeah.
what I've done is I've taken that opportunity. I've built my business around how I want to live, not
Mhm.
living around my business. So
Yeah.
this lifestyle business is, I mean, it's really it's cool and you can do it. Most people say, "No, you have to put a stake in the sand and everything will stop." No, you just have to change your
Yeah.
mindset and do it.
We talked about it earlier, how some of the things were just on cruise control. So I do appreciate that perspective because it makes you think, what is it that I learned as a kid that I still take with me today?
Yes.
And I'm not talking about stupid stuff like don't stick a key in the electric socket,
Right.
right? Those are functional things that you you need to
You
learn
only do
to
that once.
survive. Yeah. Or don't touch the hot pot. Um, but the little things like that are passed on from your parents or siblings
Mhm,
or friends. Me and my mom, we were just talking about superstitions,
mhm.
and she was thinking about the superstitions that she learned, and it was one in particular, which was don't split the pole. And she remembered where she learned. Like I don't remember where I learned any of those superstitions. I think I just learned it from my family as a kid,
Probably.
but how it drove her throughout her life when she's walking with someone, I guess that she cared about, not to split the pole. It drove her decisions in those moments, right? And that's an easy one because it's superstition, right? But there are a lot of those little small things that we learned as kids that probably served its purpose when we
Mhm,
were
mhm.
kids. But it was really something that someone else programmed in you based off of
Exactly.
their experiences,
Exactly.
based off of their life.
And if we pay attention to the shoulds, oughts, and musts that we
Mm,
tell ourselves, there is a huge key to this is not a this is a self-limiting belief, not a
yeah.
self-serving belief. And so, you know, one of the ways I start is somebody said, "Well, I have to do that." Who said? Um,
I know. You got to pay attention to those
you
words.
do, you do. You have to do
Mm,
that. And we just get caught in that stuff and believing that we have to do everything 100%. Not every single thing. We
mm,
That drives us crazy. We can't do every single thing 100%. The belief that if it's gonna be done right, I have to do it.
mm.
Not necessarily, you know? How can you teach other people if you don't give them the opportunity, you know, and
Yeah.
then coach them on making doing it the right way?
Yeah.
So I hate to say the right way because 'cause I'm not sure there's a real right
I know, right?
way. But
Another thing I heard too, well, you just talked about doing it 100%, like being stuck on trying to make everything perfect
yeah.
and having it in your mind, okay, that's good enough. Let's move to the next one. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we're looking to do something and have it done
Mhm.
perfectly, and that keeps us
It
stuck
does. You know, and the
because
other
we're
thing
never going to be
and the
perfect.
other thing is
Huh?
having to do it alone because I am more and more convinced that the
Yeah,
way we are going to be living our lives going forward is in cooperative situations. You can't
yeah,
do everything by yourself. You can't know everything by yourself these days. So find
yeah,
people that, you know, you can do some collaboration with because it
yeah.
takes so much of the load off you.
Yeah, and then I'll throw one on since we're giving out tips and mindset tricks. More people are going through what you're going through right now than you
Oh.
can believe, right? You're not the only person. So that cooperative spirit that you're talking about, if there's something that's going through that's keeping you stuck, reach out, right? Get some support. You got
Mhm.
a lot of people who've been through the same
Yeah.
thing. So, all right, those were what do they call them? Uh,
Oh,
PSAs.
yeah, public
Is
service
that what it is?
announcements.
Yeah.
That's right, it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so what matters most mean to you now compared to who you were before? You said some of it is age, some of it is experience, going through those experiences with family members. But what matters most mean to you now? That's a hard question to even
It
ask. I don't
is,
know how hard is it to
it is,
answer.
but I have been really working on this because I
Mhm.
am you know, I'm not a spring chicken and I have so much time and so much energy. And, you know, then when I think of this concept of build the business around you, what you want. So let's say I choose to work 3 days a week.
Yeah,
You know, then I have to think about what is most important. And I have always, always really served my clients deeply, and that has gotten even more important to me because I see what happens out there. People think that dealing with grief is dealing with the emotions and then, "Oh, you're fine." No, you have to go the rest of the way, help people get their mind and their belief cleared of all the junk they're carrying, and then work with what we know about them and some instrumentation I do, with people. So, we go into a process where we go through all of that, and they begin to see, oh, well, I'm getting a vision of what my life to be. So we map that out, and then they get in a big group of kind of like a mastermind group where the
Mhm.
people going through the same journey and they support themselves
Mhm.
absolutely stepping into and transforming into that person that lives in that wonderful place that has that life that they want.
Yeah.
So, we can't just do it part way. It's not helping people.
How has your mindset had to shift in order for you to keep living and not just surviving? When you say living, it's not like, hey, life and death. It's just like living purposefully
Mhm.
or not being stuck and not just surviving. In this bit, I want you to tell your perspective and then I want you to give some insight for the listeners right now because this can happen at any point in your life when it starts talking about mindset.
Yes, yes. I think that this has taken, I don't think I was selfish or, it's all about me, but it has really lessened that to a huge degree because I
Mhm.
don't want it to be about me anymore.
Mhm.
I don't wanna be the top of the class. I don't wanna have all these awards and all that kind of stuff. That's not important to me anymore. What's important to me is being useful, doing something that
Yeah.
is gonna help other people. And I find in the work that I do with people in the healing process, the more I can get them to go out and volunteer or do something for other people, the better they heal because that just gives you endorphins. That just makes you feel good that somebody else is happy because you did something. And, that's
Yeah.
something we really need to learn, and it's good to have those things happen, and the more we do that, the more we begin looking out and beginning to see what needs to be done out here, and
Mhm.
maybe I can do a small part. We can't One person can't fix it all, but we can get things moving, we can get the ball rolling to try to help, and you never know where that's gonna go.
All right, let me ask you a quick follow up question. For the person listening who may be carrying grief, regret, or a quiet fear of wasting their life, what do you want them to hold on to?
I want them to hold on to looking back over their life and looking at all the things they have accomplished. I want them to
Hmm.
understand that every experience they've had, everything they've learned has all brought them to this place. And they have the strength, they have the abilities to do something beyond just letting life happen. It's there,
Yeah.
it's inside of each one of us. If we can't pull that out ourselves, get somebody to help you. You know, you just it's hard for human beings to do that. So, getting someone who can help you identify those things and bring them forth and help you figure out, well, if I did that before, well, I can do that again, and maybe I can
Yeah.
apply it over
Yep.
here. So, I think, knowing and trusting in yourself that you have what you need.
I'm not even reiterating anything because I like everything that you're saying. So
Yay.
I've said some things, and I love to talk to people who've had experiences because I don't know how I will choose or what decision I'll make when I actually go through certain experiences that maybe you've gone through. But what it does is it puts that light bulb on. Okay, I heard about this. This is the test, and this is what I'm going through, and it just gives me a different perspective, and it gives me different tools
It does.
so that I'm not operating on autopilot
Yeah.
from something I learned as a kid. Just hearing your experiences, hearing how your mentality is going through it and was going through it, and how you perceive things now, it only gives us, and I'm talking to you now, audience, it only gives us more tools,
Mhm.
right? To be able to better navigate life. It gives us other options instead of the default button. So that's what I mean when I say I love everything that you're saying.
Well, listen, I would love to send you a couple things that people can download. We didn't touch on how you help someone who's grieving and the things you can't should say and the things that are devastating to them and the things you should do and things that aren't helpful because we don't know that. Nobody teaches us that. So I'll be glad to send
Yeah.
that to you. And then I am about to launch a platform, and my company is Women Rising Together. So the platform, it's a membership platform where they get all sorts of
Mhm.
tools. There's lots of gurus on there that will be giving information, and it's womenrisingtogether.org. It will be up in about
Mhm.
2 weeks.
All right. We'll be looking for that. I'll make sure that I put all of that in the show notes. You've now built a process to help women redefine their lives. What are a few practical first steps someone can take to begin creating a life worth living again?
Really taking a good look at yourself. We are so reluctant to
Mhm.
do that in our society.
Yeah,
But
I
start
know.
with those self-limiting beliefs. Get a red flag when you hear yourself say, I should, I ought to,
Mhm.
I need to,
Mhm.
because that's the beginning of peeling back the layers of stuff that you've taken on that's really not yours. You don't have to carry that.
Yeah.
Um, and and I think that for women in particular, but men do too, look at the roles that you play during a week or a month and write them all down. And it's pretty astounding what you do. And you have to evaluate, is this worth my energy? One of the
Mm.
things I say, let's assume that your energy adds up to the number 100 each day.
Yeah.
Okay. So look at these things and gosh, I really ought to go to the PTA meeting, but I'm exhausted. Well, how much energy are you willing to give that? Are you going to give that 50% of your energy? And what are you going to
Mhm.
do with the rest? And how are you going to have enough for the day? So, what are we giving away in terms of what we can control? Because we
Yeah.
don't understand we can control those things. Might not be popular what
Yeah.
our decisions are. We do have to do what
Yeah.
will make us the better person.
There you go. But it will be purposeful,
Yeah,
right? You will
absolutely.
do it with
Yep.
intention
Yep.
instead of going on default.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, and before we close,
I could keep going.
is
This
there
is fun.
anything is there anything about widowhood or grief or invisible loss that you feel doesn't get talked about enough? And then after that, can you tell, you did a little bit already, but then after that, can you tell the listeners how they can connect with you and learn more
Yeah.
about your work?
Um, One of the big things is we do not know how to deal with it, whether it happens to us or whether it happens to a family member or a friend. That's part of what I'm trying to do is, go around to service clubs and all sorts of, places where I can just talk about, here's some things you can do. Did you realize that saying this really upsets some people? And, the worst is when you don't know what to do and you decide the better thing is to just not be around that person and then you don't have to deal with it. And I don't mean that in a nasty way, but that does happen
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you feel uncomfortable. That's not helpful. But there's some simple things that you can do to help people through the process. And it's just a matter of caring and thinking about somebody.
Yeah.
It's simple as picking up the phone and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you today. I just want you to know I care,"
Mm.
and we just don't do that. But it's when we stop and think about it, it makes so much sense. Don't send a single person 15 casseroles of lasagna. That's what happened to me. And my girls would come over and I'd be, take this. No, no. Finally, they said, no, we've had enough. We've had enough. But think, one person, how much are they going to eat? And they
Yeah.
don't want to eat. They don't want to cook. So send them a small basket of fruit or cheese and crackers or something
Yeah.
they can graze on.
Yeah.
And we don't think of that. We think, oh, well, we need to prepare a whole meal.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, it's appreciated, but it's not going to be used. And then the person feels guilty having to throw something out.
Wow, that is something that is a very interesting thought. I'm laughing at it, not because it's a funny situation, but it's like, wow, that is so freaking obvious. You know? Yeah, eventually they'll eat, but at that moment they kind of aren't really hungry. They're going through it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so those are the type of tips. Like that's something I'm sure a lot of us listening I didn't consider that. You just figured here's the meal because that's just that's a default thing, right?
That's
That's
what you
something that
do.
always
Yeah, and that comes from long
Wow.
ago where you just brought food and everybody gathered together, but we don't do the gathering together part so well now.
And that is a hard one. I know it's difficult. When not the food part, but I know it's difficult when someone's going through it and you just you don't want to, but you feel that you have to distance yourself from that because of how it's making you feel,
Exactly.
I guess. And just really think about that.
Dude,
Especially when someone, that person's dependent on you and they need you to be there for them. They may not even say it. They may be going through their own thing and they may reject you, right? But
yeah,
that they need you there in
they
that
do.
moment. And just try to just remember that and be supportive of family and friends. Because I'll tell you what, later on in life, it's going to be one of those things you regret not doing.
Yep, it is. And you
So,
really don't have to do anything more than just sit with somebody.
yeah.
You don't have to talk. They may not be in a place where they can talk, but just knowing there's another human being there is everything.
Yeah.
And when you say, think about yourself and how uncomfortable you are, well, think about that person and how lonely they are.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest issues going through this process is the loneliness for me, it was physical. I could almost feel it in my bones. And I have family around, but still, it's something that just is part of the process.
And in the second part of that, if you're being there for that person, don't feel like you have to have the answers. Don't
Oh,
feel like you
no.
have to have this is how you navigate and get through
Absolutely.
this moment. Like you said, Lynn, you just need to be there for
That's
them.
right.
Just be there in that moment.
Everybody
Hold that
navigates
space. I
it
love
the
that.
way that works for them. So don't pressure.
Right.
Don't pressure.
So, Lynn, where can we find out more about you?
Actually, the platform is going to serve that purpose. So it's womenrisingtogether.org. I am also on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I post most days a little something that would be helpful about getting through this process.
Yeah. Wow. I appreciate that. Lynn, thank you. I should say Miss Banis, but
That's okay.
I'm going to say
friends.
Lynn because I feel real I feel real close. Yeah, we're friends. We go way back.
Yeah, that's right. For about 30 minutes.
Hey, but Lynn, thank you for sharing your story, your wisdom, your heart with us today. This was a powerful conversation for me. And it's not an easy conversation when you're talking about grief because for me, perspective wise, usually when I'm upset or things aren't going my way, I do tend to push people away maybe. And I want to deal with it for myself. But then when I'm honestly thinking about it, I want someone
That's right.
to be there for me.
That's right.
Right. So it's a funny thing. And just understanding grief from the outside. Like when you go through it, you're going to have to go through it and deal with it and face it. But as a person who's there to support someone who's going through it, you don't know what to expect. But what you should expect is to be there for that person.
Yep.
From my perspective. Yep. So as best you can.
Even in little
you don't
tiny
have to
ways.
have the answers. Yeah. Just be there and let them know that you're there.
Yep.
So But thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. It was a great opportunity, and I hope we uncover some things that folks can use.
Like I said, this was a powerful conversation to me, and I know it's going to meet a lot of people right where they are. And to everyone out there listening, please be sure to subscribe to Hindsight the podcast and stay locked in for more conversations that help you learn from the past and move with purpose towards your future. I'll see you next time.
That's Hindsight.